Daniel Ricciardo expressed his annoyance, saying, "What's frustrating is I've watched his onboard and he's not even looking at me," following Lance Stroll's collision with him at the restart of the Chinese Grand Prix. The stewards penalised Stroll with a 10-second penalty for the incident, which eliminated Ricciardo from what could have been a good race. In the midst of a hectic restart in the Chinese Grand Prix, Daniel Ricciardo accused Lance Stroll of not even looking at me, just before the Aston Martin driver crashed into the rear of his RB vehicle. As the field backed up to prepare for the hairpin turn and the race restart, Ricciardo and Stroll were in 9th and 10th place, respectively, behind the safety car at the conclusion of lap 26. But when the cars in front of him decelerated for the right-hander, Stroll was caught unawares by the concertina effect and careened into Ricciardo's rear end, the force of the collision lifting the RB temporarily off its rear wheels. The stewards assessed a 10-second penalty and 2 additional points to Stroll's super license after determining that he was predominantly to blame for the incident that led to Ricciardo's retirement. The driving of Stroll failed to impress Ricciardo, who was experiencing his finest weekend of a challenging season thus far. It's a restart, so we don't know what the leader is going to do, so you have to be as vigilant as ever and be prepared for any situation. I could see it was bunching up into the hairpin, so everyone was backing up, but how hard he's hit me and pretty much put half of his car under mine, it wasn't a small lack of judgment, it was miles off. What's frustration is I've watched his onboard and he's not even looking at me. You can see his helmet and he's looking at the apex of the corner. I don't know why he wasn't looking at me unless his eyes were doing something funny. He was clearly focused on something else. Asking Ricciardo about Stroll's apparent idiot description of the Australian in his first remarks over team radio was a topic of discussion during his press conference with the written media. I'd slowly started to calm down, and then I was told what Lance thinks of the incident, Ricciardo said. And apparently, I'm an idiot, and it was my fault. So that made my blood boil because it's clear as day and it's also behind a safety car. The only thing you've got to do is watch the car in front. We can't predict what the leader is going to do. We can't assume that we're going to go in turn 14. The race doesn't start until the control line. I'm doing my best not to say what I want to say, but I'm that guy and I'm being nice still. After seeing the incident's footage, Ricciardo felt the Aston Martin driver may take some accountability and would not go harder on Stroll. Maybe in an hour when he sees it he might take some accountability, but if he doesn't, I can't help him, nor can anyone here, he said. It's so frustrating. Obviously racing incidents happen, but behind a safety car, that should never happen. What made my blood boil is I watched his onboard to just see it from his perspective. And as soon as we start braking, you can see his helmet turn right and he's looking at the apex of turn 14. He's not even watching me. And then when he looks back, he's in the back of me. I don't know what he's doing, where his head is, but all he has to do is worry about me in that situation, and he clearly wasn't. Let's see what he says in the media, but if he comes after me, then I'll say more, he said. After the race, the Canadian driver expressed his disappointment while being philosophical about what transpired. He had qualified 11th and appeared to be on track for a points finish. "I just got a penalty because of the end result, that I hit Ricciardo," Stroll went on to say. "But it's not like everything was normal and I just slammed into the back of him." There was a really odd concertina effect there. Someone braked at the front of the pack, I don't know who, and then everyone stopped. The car in front of me just stopped from like 60 kph to 0, and then boom, so it was really stupid. It's one of those. Stroll reacted as follows, when informed that Ricciardo was critical and thought Stroll was trying to place blame on him. "No, I don't think it's him. Everyone just slammed on the brakes and he was the guy in front of me." "I don't think he slammed on the brakes more than others. It was, like I said, the concertina effect. I don't know, but I find it's just, I got a penalty because of the end result that I hit Ricciardo, but it's not like everything was normal and I just ploughed into the back of him." It was a really odd concertina effect that I would have liked to see the stewards take into consideration maybe a little bit more. The Aston Martin driver went on to explain that he had not seen the incident coming, adding, "I guess a little bit wrong place, at the wrong time too. You know, I was on his gearbox kind of thing, and ready for the restart. And just very unlucky, we were having a good race until then, so it's a shame." After getting his own 10-second time penalty for turning over Yuki Tsunoda's other rear end on the first lap after the restart, Stroll got into a thrilling wheel-to-wheel battle with Kevin Magnussen. In the end, Stroll was classified 15th. Shanghai race officials stated that the Aston Martin driver ought to have anticipated the pace of the cars in front after reviewing telemetry data and multiple camera views in their inquiry into the Stroll-Ricciardo crash. The cars were all travelling slowly to set up for the restart of the race towards the end of a safety car period, read the steward's verdict on the incident. The car in front of car 18 Stroll slowed to take the corner and also to try to match the pace of the group of cars in front of it. Car 18 then collided with car 3, Ricciardo. We determined that car 18 ought to have anticipated the pace of the cars in front, particularly car 3, and should have prepared to brake accordingly. Had it done that, it would have avoided the collision, hence car 18 was predominantly to blame for the collision that ultimately led to car 3 having to retire from the race. All of this occurred during the weekend, just before the Chinese Grand Prix, when Lance Stroll gave a media interview in which he made some general remarks on his future in Formula One. His colleague Fernando Alonso has inked a multi-year agreement, and speculation is rife over his future with Aston Martin in the wake of the company's 2026 plans for major changes with Honda. Since his father, Lawrence Stroll, owns the Aston Martin Formula One team, Lance Stroll has had a very steady career. He has often avoided the usual ups and downs of driving market speculation due to this unusual situation. His future with the team is now the centre of attention, though, due to statements and developments that followed. Furthermore, Stroll's future prospects would not have been improved by the accident that occurred during the Chinese Grand Prix. When you add to that his constant expressions of boredom and awkwardness, you could begin to question when his father, Lawrence Stroll, would finally had enough. Is Aston Martin just a means to a goal for his son? He may never view it that way. The team chemistry is expected to shift in 2026 due to Aston Martin's impending major transformation, which includes a new partnership with Honda as engine supplier, so Lawrence will need to make a swift decision. The team's objective is quite clear. They are preparing for a competitive future in the sport. They have invested significantly in cutting-edge infrastructure, including a new campus and simulator. More speculation has ensued as Lance Stroll himself has made nebulous comments about his future. While speaking to the Chinese press, he said, "Time will tell. I'm just thinking about China right now and we'll see what the future holds. It's China, the focus this weekend." These remarks bring to light the fact that Stroll's tenure at Aston Martin is clouded by contractual ambiguity. Many in the Formula One world are wondering what Stroll will do next, as his situation is distinct from other drivers whose contracts are more widely known. What do you think? Will Lance Stroll be replaced in the near future, or he will be with Aston Martin regarding his results? Please let us know in the comments down below.